really blasphemous, the things that they're putting on there, going against God and making it so obvious.
Well, this is absolutely a product of theosophy, Freemason, theosophy, this is Freemason, Rosicrucians, Alice Bailey's New Age movement, all these overt satanic cults, the ones that are inspired by Crowley, and LaVey and some of these others. Another quote by Albert Pike from the Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Masonry. It is written hieroglyphically with numbers and images, and the apostle often appeals to the intelligence of the initiated. Let him who hath understanding understand, let him who understands calculate, he often says, after an allegory or the mention of a number. So this is kind of important because we're seeing Albert Pike, who is like, he's the top dog of Scottish Rite Masonry. He's the one that's quoting the morals and the dogma of the ancients. So this is the inspiration behind the Georgia Guidestones, the numerical messages that are hidden in the Guidestones, and the mystery behind its designer, R.C. Christian. And then we look at the metric dimensions of the monument, the specifics of the astrological features in this thing. It's got a list of 10 guidelines for a post-apocalyptic kind of world, or the rebuilding of a world after destruction. It's pretty likely that the messages are encoded with dimensions or proportions, right, in the component slabstones.
Right.
We understand. So when we see these alignments in this meticulous, we're talking about hand-hewed granite, and it's not like it's something easy to do. One false chip of a hammer and you've ruined a whole piece of granite. So this whole thing to me is amazing. Jump on back in here. I didn't mean to walk on you.
Nope, that's not a problem at all. I'm still trying to figure out what all this is about, and I do find it pretty amazing the precision that they use just in the size and the width and the length of everything. Everything they do relates to something, and they think it's funny that you may or may not be able to figure out what it is that they're relating their measurements to.
Well, all magicians do that, and magicians are synonymous. The Freemason, there's always a magic involved or some kind of sleight of hand. That's kind of a, understanding that the magic of it, the sleight of hand of it, like you just said, right under everybody's nose, and laughing that you don't see it because they're doing it right in your face. Really and truly, this is what a magician does. They do a trick right in front of your face, and then they make you feel really ignorant for not seeing what they did right in front of your face. You will never see it. They don't think you will ever see it, but when you do see it,
even though it's there, right?
But when you do see it, then you can't be deceived by that trick anymore, right?
Right.
So if we absolutely look at it along these lines, and understanding that this monument, let's call it a monument, it has 3 component groups, okay? There's the guide stones. We're talking about the gnomon stones in the center, and then you got the guide stones that are the 4 that are around the center stone, and then there's the capstone on top. So we're looking at 3 different kinds of stones. You with me so far? They're made of the same thing, but there are 3 kinds. You got the center stone. It's different than the 4 outer stones, and like the capstone's different from all 5 of the others. So we're seeing 3 kinds of stones. And I think that's important that they've designed it this way. Why not make all the stones the same size, right?
Right. There's some purpose for it.
Yeah, and then we have to understand that these metric measurements were specified by R.C. Christian. This is how large they had to be, and the corresponding proportions would actually be, if you're looking at a 0.5 meter by 2 meter by 3 meter capstone, okay, Then you look at the corresponding proportions of that. Then you're looking at the capstone being 1 to 4 to 6. That's the ratio. Then the center stone will be 1 to 2 to 10. And then each of the 4 guide stones that are around the outside would be 1 to 4 to 10. Those are the proportions, not the numbers, but the proportionary differences. So we have to look at it. I think this is really encoded too, because if we look at, let's say, the 4 guide stones, the 4 on the outside, their ratio being 1, 4, and 10. Well, on January the 4th, 2010, the Burj Khalifa, which is the world's tallest building and actually resembles the Babylonian ziggurats that we have pictures of, the same style that the Tower of Babel most likely would have been built in to be engineered to reach up like it was. January the 4th, 2010. This is when they opened that building. 1, 4, 10, that's each of the 4 guide stones. This amazes me because there's a correlation here. Jump in.
Yep, there pretty much has to be a correlation in that stuff, because it's too obvious to be coincidence, but it's one of those things that you almost can't prove that that's what happened, but to me it seems obvious.
Well, as I looked into it, and some other people have found this same thing out, the former Emir of Dubai, who was Sheikh Maktoum bin Rashid Al Maktoum, died. He died unexpectedly during an Australian trip on January the 4th, 2006. And that corresponds to the proportions of the capstone, the Georgia Guidestone 146. January the 4th, 2006. So his death led to his brother Sheikh Mohammed becoming ruler of Dubai. So we see that Sheikh Mohammed is directly responsible for the construction of the Burj Khalifa. I mean, we know this almost bankrupted. This almost drove Dubai into receivership, and they were bailed out by the leader of Abu Dhabi. So this building is 1,000 feet taller than most any other building in the world. It's crazy that this thing is standing up that high. I mean,
you'd have to be pretty obsessed to keep building that even at the point of bankruptcy. I mean, you don't do that just for fun. That's pretty remarkable.
Well, if you add the ratios on these, and this is somebody else's, that I've seen this on several places, but I've seen this same thing too. You add the ratios together, so the capstone being 1 to 4 to 6 ratios, that adds up to 11. And then the center stone being 1, 2 to 10, that's 13. And then the guide stones are 1, 4 plus 10, that's 15. But there's 4 of those guide stones. So taking that into account, you got to add 4 to that, so that adds up to 19. So if you take 11 times 13 times 19, you come up with 2,717 feet. This is the height of that tower that we just talked about, the Burj Khalifa. Those are all prime factors of 2,717. So, and it wasn't till the 2010 Guinness Book of World Records said it was 2,684 feet tall. But on January the 4th, 2010, Sheikh Mohammed surprised the world with the actual height of the tower. It's 2,717. That is just the exact height. So we see that the guide stones, they've got January the 4th, 2010, being the completion day of the Burj Khalifa. The height of it is encoded in the fashion within the proportions of the Georgia Guidestones themselves in those 3 components. Understanding that there are 3 components, so we know there are 3 different kinds to be, added or multiplied or divided by each other. This is just how numerology works I'm not a numerologist, but I know my enemy. And believe me, I know what they're doing. I know they've always calculated, and they've always taught everybody to calculate this and calculate that. This is really significant because we're seeing a connection between these two structures, and we can even tie that into the One World Tower. And jump in here, give me a quick comment, and then we're going to take our bottom of the hour break.
Now, you may have said this on another broadcast, but why do you think they picked Georgia for the place of this? You know, especially since it's related to that tower, you'd think they'd put it in the same country. Is it all about the ley lines and the point in the stars that it lines up with that would cause them to want to put it in Georgia?
Well, if we look at the antipode, it's over in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So it's not through the Earth on the other side like looking at an antipodal map. But I truly believe it's because Georgia was the fourth state of the colonies. The fourth state was Georgia, I believe. I might do the math. I mean, I might have checked wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that Georgia was the fourth state. And we're seeing this encoded also, this number 4. That's just my feeling on it. I try to figure that out myself to see if it's on ley lines, to see if I can take some other understanding. See, Atlanta's on the 33rd parallel, just like, if you go out to Vegas, or not Vegas, but Los Angeles out there, also around Hollywood. This is not there. See, this would be a little off of that parallel, but it might have something to do, and I haven't really looked at it like that, but you gave me a good idea. It might have something to do with a prime meridian and the Tropic of Cancer. So that's something good.
And sometimes I think too, it may not be about that. It could be about the tribes that may have come across. George Washington and several of the others weren't the first to come over here. You know, I think a lot of the Canaanites and other Ite tribes, fled to the United States and were here in the land. We have proof of that through some of the bones that have been found in the United States. So, I think a lot of times it may be about celestial events that they're lining up with. It could be about the ley lines, but part of it is just maybe the activity that's gone on in those areas over the past.
Yeah. And I agree because, we look even at the Hopi Indians, they've got their beliefs based on something, right? The Mayans believed certain things for certain reasons, and all of these were brought from, you can tell like the 7 civilized tribes of the Indians, and we've never talked about this. Actually, many people will tell you those are of the tribes of Israel because. And then you had the savage Indians would be the Canaanite and the other type
right.
of enemies of Israel. Now, whether I go that far or not, I don't know, because I don't think it has anything to do with the outer appearance. I don't think it has to do anything with blood. I truly believe that's what Paul was trying to say when he said, "Look, I'm a Hebrew. I'm a Hebrew among Hebrews, but that don't make me anything, because God's no respecter of man." So let's take a quick break, and you going to join me back for another half hour, brother?
Yep, we can do another half hour.
All right. We'll be back with you here in just a few minutes, guys. This is Diffusion of the Delusion Radio here on GWA Radio Network. And we're back here. You're listening to Diffusion of Delusion Radio with Rando. This is on the GWA Radio Network. If you want to join us over in our chat room, you can find that over at gwaradio.com. You can find out a lot of information about the network and who's coming up, when, where, how, and why. And you'll probably notice that if you go look, the schedule is not done. I'm rearranging some things. I've got a few other hosts that are coming on board, and I want to make sure that they get their prime time. So I'm kind of rearranging some things, and we're anxious to hear them. And I will wait to until we get an audio or two of theirs up, and then we will absolutely we'll go down a whole lineup of everybody that has allowed